Welcome in, everybody. My name is Mitch, and welcome back to another YouTube video on Jamie's channel. I'm riding solo tonight. I'm being a lonely loner. Matty T didn't want to jump on tonight. I sent him a message this morning. I said, mate, keen to jump on tonight. What's the move? And he said, oh, my rank sucks. I'm sitting like 10K. I don't want to do it tonight. And I said, it's all good, mate. No worries. No worries at all. No, I don't know what he's got going on. He's got something going on, so he couldn't jump on. So bear with me. It's just going to be me for 20, 30, 40 minutes, however long I can ramble, whatever comes out. Absolute rubbish I can stink up. And round 17, speaking of absolute rubbish, that's what this was for me. And it feels like that's been my whole season. I don't really want to ramble and say the same thing that I said last week in regards to my team, but what happened to those 3 or 4 weeks, 3, 4, 5 weeks, right? We had no injuries, nothing was going on. I feel like every week now there's been more damage. Toby Couchman for a lot of us, Kalen Ponga for only me because I'm the only one that owns him. And so those two are going to be trade outs, unfortunately heading into the last major buy round before the last minor buy round as well. So a lot of people are running pretty low on trades. I, for one, am not. I somehow still have seven. I actually haven't traded the last 2 weeks, which is really, really cool. Hasn't helped my rank though, sitting 2,900. I lost about 300 ranks in round 17 with a score of 928. So I think the average of the round was like 950. So 30 points below, which has kind of been the staple of my season, to be honest. I think I said to Jamie a few days ago, or Maddie, or one of them, when can I start planning for 2026? When can I get excited for 2026 fantasy? Because yeah, this season's been it's been a slog, and it's going to continue to be a slog. But 928 points, look, it's fine. It is what it is. A lot of people copped that Toby Couchman injury. He was having a pretty tough game anyway. On the edge, going back to the bench. I was actually pretty keen for it because I thought he'd play a little bit on the edge, a little bit in the middle, but mainly in the middle. And so yeah, that failed. Bringing him back in has just totally failed. Which bad process. Maybe not. I don't think so. I think it was a fine process, just a bit unlucky, along with everybody who's kind of brought him back in. And Kalen Ponga, obviously the other injury that I copped, who he looked like he was going to cause some absolute damage on that left-hand side for the Newcastle Knights. He was about to pop off. He got the goal kicking back, and then he's unfortunately done his Liz Frank, which is it's pretty much the ACL of the foot from what I can kind of figure out. So he's a sell. Those two guys, look, it's been fun tone Ponga all season. It's time to finally get off, and maybe finally getting off Ponga now could be the staple to bring my season back on track, eh? We'll see what who I can trade him to. Selling him in that price is just so gross considering I started with him at like 730. So, but he should be back, I think, sometime towards the back end of the season with the Liz Frank. And let's say he doesn't come back, being priced at 42, heading into the next season, is it going to be the third year in a row that I start with Kalen Ponga? Probably will be. So I'm here for that. Aaron Clark, everyone's got him. Joe Tarpney has been another pretty frustrating watch, I'd say. Obviously, I don't really check the scores. I've said it a few times here and everyone laughs at me, but I actually don't check the scores until like I used to, for the majority of the time I've played fantasy, it used to be halftime I'll check the scores. But now the last like 2 months I've been checking the scores at full time. And I saw Joe Tarpney throw three pretty fast offloads. And I thought, oh, here we go. He's going to be on here. And I checked at the end of the game and he was on 49. I said, oh my goodness, 49 points, a pretty middling rubbish score, I'd say, for his standards or for my standards that I have of him, and a dislocated finger. So hopefully he plays this week. But if not, then that's just so awesome. But it's leading to him playing. So I'm counting him as a number. Cam McInnes, very, very disappointing. 50 minutes. I think I made obviously this was more of a vibe pick for myself. Like, I love Cam, I love owning him. But when it was him or AFB in round 13 or 14, uh, and going Cam, they were 10K apart. And I just, looking back on that, I probably should have went to AFB. But just the minutes, like AFB just getting 10 more minutes than him every single week. And Cam's not even running the ball. I remember last year owning him, he would still run for his 100 meters or so, but he's just not running the ball. Anytime he gets the ball, he's just distributing. So it's been pretty frustrating. And I'm genuinely considering uh, trading him out this week. I'm going to make a few trades this week. Definitely. I haven't traded for ages, it feels like. So I'm keen to send probably three or four of them. He's definitely on my chopping block. Kalamatangi, a bit of an off game, but everybody's got him. Jamal Fogarty, I'm really, really happy with. Such a boring watch, but again, I'm just so happy every time it's fifth and last, and it's a even playing field. There's even possession in the game. Fogarty's just going to have monster kick meters. Bo Fermor finally outscoring Herbie Farmworth. Thank, I can't even say the word that I want to say, but thank God that Bo Fermor has finally outscored Herbie. It's only taken 12 years. And he needed to score a try. Herbie didn't. So again, not owning Herbie's been the downfall of my season, and I'm not going to own him all year. I'm not paying that much for a center. Again, he is averaging like nearly 64, but it's funny. I'm not buying a center worth that much. I'm quite happy with my back rollers, even though I'm not. Watching a Dolphins game is just so, it actually ruins my weekend every single weekend, having to sit down and watch the Dolphins. I think when the Dolphins played Rabbitohs on Saturday night, I think I sat there and I lost like 5,000 ranks because I just said Kalamatangi, and it was like I have it on my other monitor on my TV, and I'm just like, yeah, I zone out. I don't want anything to do with it. So thank God I don't have to watch the Dolphins play this week. I don't have to watch Herbie. Back three again, like I said, Ponga, bit frustrating. He's finally going to be a trade. Garrett on the left wing instead of the right wing was pretty tough. Luckily, he got that bailout try, but without it, it wasn't looking too good. And all the rest of these guys here. So Britt Nickera going low as well, 44. I was actually quite happy with this score in a sense because he did have a lot of missed tackles, which he does do, but he made 45 of them, and this had no attack, no offloads, no tackle breaks, nothing, just tackles and run meters, basically. So I'm quite happy with that. KPP, another option that I've been not tinkering with selling, but someone that isn't really on my chopping block, but I'm thinking, okay, what is best for value? They still have two buys, but I don't want to get too cute with it. And quickly before we move on, obviously just want to have a quick rehash of what happened. You would have seen Jamie's video. Everyone knows what's going on the last week, but it's always good to go over and just, keep in the back of your mind what's happened and what's to come, really. I wanted to shout out Matty T, who's actually not on the video. He can't make it. He's having a sook. He's chucked the towel in with his really, really amazing loop. So take you back to the Manly versus Tigers game. He had Mr. Ben Travojevic, who I think he scored a try, maybe had a try assist. He was stoked. I had DC in that game, and every time he threw a trash little offload, I was getting really excited. And I think DC had a try assist to Burbo. And I said in the group chat, thank God for that. And Matty was stoked with Burbo. And he was looping him with Lawson. And I said, oh, watch out. Like, hopefully Lawson doesn't play. By that point in time, he was 18th man. And Maddie's like, oh, but he shouldn't. And I'm like, yeah, he shouldn't, but you never know. And then go back to the Dragons game. And obviously Tui Pelotu was like a last 2 minute scratching, and Lawson got pushed into the starting team. And I don't think I've ever opened my phone and gone into a group chat fast enough to try to at Maddie. I even like added him. I was like, mate, like Lawson's playing. You do something if you can. And it was just so late that you couldn't have done anything. So he ended up losing out on 40 points from that, which is tough. Like he already scored 945, which is pretty close to average. So he turned a pretty average week into he could have turned a really average week into a really good week. So tough for him. I think he's only got two or three trades left. Three, I think, from memory. I don't know, but hopefully he runs out. Hopefully Jamie Brown also runs out too. So heading into round 18, it's probably a pretty sour topic because my round 18 team is absolutely rubbish. Obviously, the Couchman injury has, I had some plans to not really make some moves in this week, but just more so keep my head above water and just try to survive. I actually have a really big interest in targeting a lot of these Origin guys over the next few weeks. So this week is about surviving, getting through it, not letting it ruin my weekend when my team sucks. Because as you can see, I'm in desperate need of some help. Currently, with that Couchman injury, I think Nathan Lawson's also out with like a fractured scapula or something. Some important part of your body is fractured of his, so he won't be playing. So that leaves me with 9 players before trades. Now, I do have 7 trades, which is like 2.5 above average, which is a bit different for me, which again, like normally, as Jamie likes to make fun of me, I'm a gunslinger, and normally by this point I have no trades. So I'm sitting high in the ranks and I've got no trades. Now I'm sitting below in the ranks and I've got seven trades. So go figure. I know which side I'd rather be on. So I'm keen to make some moves. Jazz Tavanga, I was pretty keen on trading me out last week, to be honest. I think for like half of the week, I had Jazz to Jaden Brayley, like not locked in, but I was really keen on that. Which it is what it is. It's just one of the midweek things that I do. I think mid every week in the middle of the week, my team looks different to what it actually turns out to. So yeah, the middle forwards are pretty stock standard. Jazz Tavanga, people will have Jazz or Cook. Jazz, he's got one last week in my side. And then I'm going to be flinging him to the moon to one of these other Origin guys. I have currently no edges, which is just so interesting. Everybody has a lot of edges. I've got none. Obviously, Colo has the DPP. Couchman is a trade, obviously. Halves, I've got DCE and Fogarty with Latu as the loop, so I'll get that fixed up. I have no centers with Ruben Garrick to go up or down, and I have Teddy and Drinkwater. So I've got a pretty staple nine players. Everyone's going to have the same core, like seven, eight guys. I've got a few pods in DCE. Well, really one pod in DCE. A lot of these other guys are really highly owned. And I've got some guys I need to trade out. So as you can see, my team's in shambles, and I'm keen to have some fun, be a bit different, go a bit rogue. But the main thing in the back of my head is what I want to do in round 19 and 20 with these Origin guys. So what I wanted to do quickly, I have it written down here so I don't forget, is the Origin guys that I'm really keen on. Obviously, I went through it a little bit last week, but I've currently just went in and put a star on everybody that I'm keen on who plays Origin. Now, Haas is a little different because he's going to be a target in round 21 after the Broncos bye, but it's about what I can do with the cash that I'm going to make over the next 2 weeks in getting these Origin guys. So someone like Angus at 600 is I'm really keen on Angus. I will be buying him. And Tino as well, who I've just stumbled upon. I didn't realize he was so cheap. I think he's going to have like a 70 break even as well. So he's going to lose even more cash. But some of these guys, I think Latrell's going to be going close to a must have in round 20 after their bye. Keep in the back of your head that they do have another bye in round 26, which is the head to head finals for those guys who play head to head. And Isaiah Yo, I'm looking at a Jazz Tavanga to Isaiah Yo straight swap in next week. That's going to be something, probably the first trade I do when lockout's over next week. I think Yo should back up, and that's something I'm going to pull the trigger on right away when that lockout lifts next week. But until then, we've got to make some of this cash, right? How can I create the cash to get these guns in? Um, and that's where we start. Seven trades with 23K in the bank. I want to have all these gun players. What am I going to do? So Couchman obviously is a trade, and Ponga is a trade. So that's two. I need two edges or like a middle and an edge, and then I need two centers or like a wing fullback and a center. And before we continue or what's going on, I personally will be playing one short. I'm not gonna. I have nine. I could use four trades to get to a 13. But I think I've made the decision and one that I'm comfortable with in playing short. Everyone's going to be in the same position as me. If I use three trades, that'll get me down to four. And the plan is to have four trades with a lot of money in the bank, like 350 to 400K to, go from Jazz to like Yo, and then go from some of these other guys to like an Angus at that price. Connor Watson, I'm really keen on. And then obviously Payne Haas, Latrell Mitchell, these other guys, right? So it's a big puzzle, it's a big jigsaw, and you got to try and figure out and plan what the best route of action is. Now, I could use all four trades and get to a 13 this week, but it's pretty grim, right? Like you look at the wing fullbacks out of these guys, who do I not own? It's like Pappenhausen and then Turbo, who Turbo is someone that is definitely an option. Your centers, all the big dogs don't play. Shout out to JacobCarr, who I completely just have not even gone over yet. I didn't buy last week. Obviously I owned at the start of the year or in the middle of the year. And watching him last week switch over to the left-hand side of the field, I was pretty nervous. I was like, okay, like, this is not good. He's going to score really, really good. and he had a nothing game and still scored 47, which is absolutely unreal, right? Like if you had him in your centers or your wing fullback, like it's a base game and it was really, really good. He actually had like a play in the game where he took a return from a kick, caught it on the wing, made a return, offloaded the ball, and then got up and then had the next play and offloaded the ball again. He had two offloads in like 10 seconds. And that is up there with one of the most obnoxious things that I've ever seen playing fantasy. So that was worth 8 points. Well, that's worth 8 points because that's what he scored, right? So you take the score, but being 18th man is a blessing in disguise for me because he would have played my Broncos this week and he could have actually put 100 points on the baby Broncos on Friday night. So yeah, a bit of a stitch up that he's 18th man. So I was Reece Walsh. I know a few of the boys. I think Nathan in one of our circles bought both of them, Reece Walsh and Jacob Carr last week. And yeah, that's tough. That is pretty unlucky. Like, a lot of people, pretty much everyone that I know did the Sharp to Carraz trade, or, I think like 800 of the top 1,000 people bought in Jacob Carraz last week, which is insane. Completely right process, like not insane because it's like it's like, like it's insane how this has actually happened. But that's fantasy, I guess, it's a blessing in disguise for me. So it's put a lot of people in a tough position. Obviously, Carraz is not a sell at all. But, do you want to go out and buy another center or another wing fullback? Probably not. I think a lot of people are going to be in my position where they're just like, look, playing 12, playing 11 even, like I think it's fine. Last year, obviously, in last week's video, I showed a screenshot of what my last major buy round team was, and I played too short, pretty much held rank. So, yeah, look, obviously this year's a little different with the increased team value, but in saying that, the caveat to that is there's a pretty good portion of like 8, 9, 10 guys that everyone's going to own. So it's not like you're missing out on, a lot of people have your Teddy, Drinkwater, Garrick. Maybe you've got a Pappenhausen, a Turbo, your Hoskins, Aitkins, Fogarty, all these guys, right? Like they're pretty highly owned. So I think it's okay in a week like this to play short and not ruin your team. But yeah, just quickly wanted to touch on Faraz Walsh, not so much because obviously before that, Ponga was there, but Carraz, that's pretty tough. That's a tough pill to swallow and very unfortunate. Not the a bad process of a trade in whatsoever. So yeah, this week for me, like I said, 7 trades. How do I make some cash? So someone like Celelesi Feti is I'm pretty keen on, from what I've been thinking the last couple of days, just within in the mindset of getting the money for these guys next week. And obviously Couch and Ponga have to go. So Feketi is just a way to free up, nearly 300K from Couchman. I need a middle or an edge this week. The Roosters are decimated. I think I prefer him to be on the edge. I don't know where he will be. Obviously on a Monday night, pretty hard to know before TLT. But I think I'm going to take a punt on him and just hope for like a 40, 42 even. He actually has a negative break even as well. So he's going to make a little bit of cash, but it's more about freeing that cash up from like a Couchman. So he's someone that I'm really keen on. And I think I've convinced myself to do it. So before I continue, let me just lock that in. Just obviously, it's pretty hard to lock things in when footy's like 6 days away. But this is something that I'm pretty keen on. I've got pretty much 300K, right? Look at my woeful team value. My goodness, everybody has like 1 million more, which is funny. And so if we fix that up, now my team, yeah, look, I've got 10 players. So I need to make 2 more trades. So obviously Kalen Ponga also has to go. So I need a wing fullback or like a center, obviously with Garrick. So the two people on my list that I'm thinking of without thinking too much on the analytical side or buy planning side or, just spitballing because that's pretty much what I do best. Talk absolute rubbish. Is Tom Turbo. Played in the centers last week, scored a tryless 49, the roving center role. 140 meters with 15 tackles, which is really, really good base for Turbo. The tackles really, really help. And at that price, I don't think a lot can go wrong. Now, obviously, his body is made out of wet paper bags. Don't get me wrong. Is he the most injury prone player in the NRL? Unfortunately, yes, even though he's an absolute weapon. And when you look at Turbo, parts of me, it's the Kalen Ponga effect. Like probably 10% of me still thinks of 2021 Turbo, where he was like an immortal and he broke the record for the most amount of fantasy points. Um, but that's not what we're getting right now, and that's okay at the price, like 416K. Like that's like a up early 30s price point or something off the top of my head. So I'd probably just be freeing, buying him to serve a role to free up some cash, get a score this week. Maybe he gets the center duel in like around 21, which is a bit funny. And then that probably allows me to trade Garrick if he stays on the wing. I don't think it's a long-term thing, and it's nothing I've really thought about. Obviously, when you do a video live, there's no cuts. So if I say something silly about trading Garrick, there's a good chance I don't mean it. But food for thought. So Turbo is someone that I'm pretty keen on. The other one, interestingly enough, is Jack Bird. At that price, if he starts in the back row, the Tigers are going, the Tigers team list this week is going to be a massacre with all the injuries, suspensions, origin guys. Like, yeah, I don't know what they're going to name this week. It genuinely could be anything. If you know, like the rugby league guru, like CBA, it could genuinely be anything. And yeah, if Jack Bird starts on the edge, we know what he is. I think he scored 45 last week, but he was on like 32 at half time. I actually didn't check that. Obviously, someone told me, and I was like, oh yeah, wow. So Jack Bird, if he plays, then that's quite interesting. All day since lockout, and I was having and this morning when I was going through the math and seeing what I could do, it was Tom Trbojevic. So for the purpose of that, I'm gonna make that trade just to have it, there's a good chance it's Jack Bird. There's a good chance it's none of these guys. But this is what I had in my earlier plans. So this would then give me another number with Turbo. Obviously has the round 19 buy, which I've got a lot of those guys, which obviously is something to consider. And I've got way too many Manly players. Jesus, my goodness. So that puts me to 11. So what I'm missing now is a center and an edge flash mid. Now this center position I'm not going to worry about. I'm going to play one center short. I've already got Bo Fermor. I've got Lucas and I've got Garrick as that, swing. So I'm not going to worry about getting a gun center in here. Like there's not a lot of options. I was pretty keen on like Adam Dewey, on the weekend when I was tinkering around and just because if he plays 5'8", I think Adam Dewey's going to score really, really, really good this week. So he was like an option in my head where it was like, a bit of a pod option, has the chance to go big at 5'8". So I doubt that I'm going to actually pull the trigger. If we hear news throughout the week that maybe it's like a long-term thing of Dewey to 5'8" and like Latu Finu to the bench again and play that like middle role where he comes on and kind of straightens the attack, then there's a really, really good chance that that Turbo trade turns into Dewey. But just because it's short term, I probably won't, and it eats into the money that I'm trying to save. So for this purpose of this, we're going to leave it with Turbo. And the other option that I had, the last option, is obviously Cam McInnes, right? And it sucks. It's frustrating. I do love watching him, and I've spruiked him. Uh, I held him all year last year, but I think just watching him and knowing his minutes cap, I think he has a 3 round average of like 47, which is fine, right? Like it's not the end of the world. I picked him up for this. So I picked 51 minutes, 58, 50, 72 when they had the Teague Wilton injury with Dan Atkinson on the bench. But running their four forward rotation is just killing him. And the thing with that is what's making it even worse is he's splitting minutes with Jesse Colquhoun. So it's just him and Jesse Colquhoun. They're playing the same lock role. So it's not like AFB who's playing with short middle minutes and then he's like a priority to come back. When Cam comes off, Jesse Colquhoun is coming on and just playing the lock role. So that kind of hinders him a lot. That wasn't happening last year. They'd kind of replace Cam with like a Toby Rudolph and then they would just not have the ball playing lock for however long, and then they'd be like, okay, let's get Cam back on. But now they're just taking Cam off and putting Jesse Colquhoun on. So with that, Cam's not running as much. His run meters are down quite a lot, running for like 60, 70 meters. Even his tackle counts are pretty low as well. So Yeah, he's one that I'm pretty keen on flicking. Not keen because I want to, but just for my team dynamic. And I need someone who's going to be more just dispensable, I suppose. Hopefully that's the right word. I'm not the smartest cookie in the jar. Britton Nickera, can't sell him at that price, 583. Love that. So I think Cam's going to be the one to go. So I do have a lot of money here, and I think what makes the most sense, just for my team currently, is just to lock in uh Cam to Katoa. I need an edge or a mid. Um, Katoa, he's going to get a rest in the back end, so I'm going to say he still has a bye left, but Cam has two this week and then around 25 or something, whatever the number is. But Katoa will get a rest. And these trades just, I was thinking about it at work today when I was going through it. These trades just seem so grim. Couchman, Gun, Cam, Gun, 50-point guy, and Kalen Ponga. I bought him at 730, selling to these guys. So it's not great, but something that I'm potentially just going to lock in. And it kind of gives me a pretty okay team for the week. Like it's not great, but a lot of people are going to be in my position, and I'm fortunate enough that I have banked some trades. And what this kind of allows me to do is next week do like a straight swap to like go from Jazz to an Isaiah Yo. I'm going to need some mids next week. Obviously, with getting rid of Cam, my buy planner, I'm actually quite good on edges, which is another thing for next week. I have Katoa, KPP, and Nickera, so I'm one over. Mids, I am a few short, so that's where you guys like Tino, Isaiah Yo, Connor Watson. I'm also pretty keen on. So we'll see what kind of way or position that I end up going. And this is just for short term. There's a 99% chance that this does change. And that's the beauty of the way I play fantasy, and also the beauty of doing a video on a Monday night before you've even had dinner after a long day of work. So much can change and so much will change. I bet you I'm gonna stop the recording and I'm gonna change it all and go, oh, maybe I should have waited for the video. So it's not a bad position to be in. It could be a lot worse. Obviously, luckily for my side, and again, not luckily because I'm rubbing it in to you guys who probably own Carraz, but like that Carraz situation does help me. And what that does allow is if somebody was banking on Carraz, maybe someone's forcing another trade and still having four trades with a lot of money in the bank to really push next week. Obviously, I still want to get Haas back. Herbie, I'm not worrying about for the rest of the season. Obviously, with this Katoa, I could just go Preston instead, but I think that extra 70K could be pretty valuable. And I think I'm also pretty sure Preston will get a rest at some point as well. I know we had like a 4 or 5 week suspension. But personally, in my opinion, I think some of those Bulldogs guys will get a rest as well. So I think that 70K could be more beneficial if DCE can have a big game, like if again, I think I am pretty keen on Feketi. Hopefully, I'm saying that correctly. If DCE can have a monster, which we haven't seen anything of, I'm also praying than having a stat slash analysis base off that. If DC can have a monster, and if I stick with Feketi and he plays on an edge, and then I think they play the Tigers. So if he can score a try and go like 50, 60 plus, is that wishful thinking or what? Who do I got to beg to get that to happen? I'd be pretty stoked. So we'll see what I do with this turbo trade. God, I'd love for it to be Adam Dewey. I'd love to go put Adam Dewey in my centers and Ruben Garrick back here. I don't think I will, but it's just that's more the fun trade. Obviously, instead of Katoa, I could go Viliami Kikau for like a little bit cheaper, but I think I'm doing a little too much there. Even though that would be a lot more fun. And I think that's probably where I'm going to end it. I don't have Matty here to, kind of coerce me into doing whatever rubbish he wants to do. I think he's low on trades, so I don't have his mellow voice to go, oh, maybe you should do this instead. So this is what I'm thinking, what I'm spitballing. I think it's going to be a short and sharp video this week, obviously getting towards the end of the season. And my first time really ever doing videos and content, I suppose you could say, even though I jump on for 40 minutes a week one time. Yeah, it's been a big learning curve and it's been super fun. But towards the back end of the season, obviously, when people start running out of trades or the group chats start getting a little, a less more, what am I saying? A little less more active. Um, people don't really want to talk about fantasy when they don't got no trade. So those last few trades are going to be a blessing in disguise for many people. I know a lot of people already out. A few people in different podcasts and things that I'm hearing are like, have two, three before this week. So yeah, it's pretty fun to trade. I get that. So I'm pretty keen to launch three or four this week, considering I saved two back-to-back weeks. Sorry, like I haven't traded since like round nine or something. So I think that's where we end it. I'll stop talking some rubbish and I'll see you guys next week. Okay, leave your comments and stuff in the comments section. We can have a yarn or two, and I'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.